What do you want to do with the hair, by the way?
Shit, man. Ryan usually does at 4 and then mid.
Well, I'm not Ryan.
Or whatever you think is gonna look good, but short.
I'm just kidding. Love you, Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. Go ahead and keep your hands in the cape.
Oh, sit.
Yeah. Sit out just like this. What'd you say? So 4 on top.
4 on top and then mid skin fade.
Mid skin fade.
Yes,
Do you keep
sir.
the hooks?
No hooks.
No hooks?
Yeah.
Okay. And then line up the front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Sounds good. When was the last time I cut your hair, bro?
Definitely pre-pandemic.
Years. Since Japantown?
Yeah, when you were working in Japantown.
When was that? What years were that? Like 2016?
2018?
2018.
2018. Or 17 maybe. No, 18. Yeah.
Well, the first time I met you, I think, was like 2016.
Yeah.
I think the first time I met you was when I was working at Legends. You guys had opened Paradox already. I don't think you were working there yet, but you and Ryan started going to Paradox at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I came by to get a haircut from JR, and then you were doing like a crop. Remember when the crop first came out?
Yeah.
And then the first time I met you was you teaching me how to do a crop, essentially.
Dang.
That was the very first time I ever spoke to you.
That was a while back then.
Yeah. Crops weren't even a thing yet.
No, it wasn't. I think even just combing your hair down wasn't even a really big thing.
Yeah. Styles are definitely different now.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
For sure. Compared to how it was back then, where it was just a lot more sleek and calm. But now it's a lot more of finger styles, honestly. Just more natural, lived in.
What do you think contributed to all these new styles coming in, like the more natural looks?
Definitely the UK. UK had a big, at least from the beginning of it all, I felt like UK was definitely ahead of its time when all these styles were going.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the crop, brush back. You even see, a lot of molds coming back, and a lot of, soccer teams actually in Europe, kind of developed all these styles, which is pretty cool. So, yeah.
I think the pandemic also kind of contributed to a lot of what the kids are rocking these days.
Yep.
Like the curly top with the super low taper.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of those?
A lot. I mean, well, not really too much. I know most of my high school clients pretty much graduated out and, out of high school and into college now. And, some of them are leaning away from that hairstyle now. But I've noticed a lot of, ball players, a lot of kid ball players like to have their hair outgrown on the top, and put, a little taper on the side and back. Just rock it like that.
Yeah. I think me and you being barbers, we've seen trends come and go, and it seems to be very cyclical. When I first started cutting hair, I think the comb over was just starting to get popular. Well, it's not really the comb over; it was more like the side part, where it's parted over to one side, hard line, with the high fade on the sides.
Yeah.
But now, people still get that. But then I think another influence is also Korean culture.
Yep.
Shout out to Kayla. Kayla, if you're watching this, shout out to you. You're perming all of San Jose.
Pretty much, dude. Yeah, Kayla and Chris now, and hopefully Jordan when he gets back, are going to be pretty much the perm gods of Japantown.
The perm gods of Japantown.
The perm gods of Japantown, dude.
That's going to be their trademark.
You're going to smell like egg in there all day. Oh, man.
Well, Zach, thank you for coming, bro.
Sir.
I think me and you having this pod together makes a lot of sense. We both started at Paradox around the same time. We're both in a sense veterans in our own respects. What I want to get your kind of your background story. I want to ask where it all began. Where did you grow up? How was your childhood? And then you can kind of segue that into how you got into barbering and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, my interest wasn't really into barbering until after high school. But to kind of venture back, my mom used to cut me and my brother Yuri's hair when we were little, and she would just buzz us like a simple one, and then she would use scissors to kind of edge us up. And back then, you know, you only had Conair clippers, so it wasn't even anything too crazy. So that was kind of, you know, to venture back a little bit. And then moving forward, when I got into junior high, I remember watching this SNL episode where Keenan had a crazy crisp lineup, and it had ice picks, and you know, everything was lined up pretty sharp. And I was always wondering, like, you know, where can you get this haircut? And at this point, you know, I was always going to a Vietnamese salon, always getting my hair buzzed, and it was never as crisp as, you know, when I saw it on that SNL episode. So I asked my mom, I was like, you know, can you give me this haircut? She was like, I can try, you know, but it never happened. So again, try to fast forward a little. One of my past friends, Joel, his name was Joel, and he had the haircut. And I asked him, I was like, you know, where did you get that haircut? You know, because you know, it's something that I've been looking for for a long time. And he was like, you know, it's a shop in Fremont called KJ's. KJ's. The OG head of it all, KJ's. You know, that's what I feel like all the East Bay heads in Fremont used to get their haircut at. And then just to spend in there, like, you know, that's where I got my first $20 haircut. And at the time, you know, when you're transitioning from a Vietnamese, you know, salon, which is like only $10, and you're only tipping them $1 or $2, you know, that's cheap. But then now you come into, you know, more of a black-owned barbershop, you know, straight, a little more grungy, a little bit more intimidating to come into, and you know, they're charging 20 a cut. You know, obviously you're not thinking about tip at all at that point. You're just giving them 20 straight. But it was just the feeling of me being taken care of within an hour, and really feeling, you know, the clippers, and you know, even just smelling the cool care was different. You know, like even, you know, from the finish of, you know, getting alcohol wipe, feeling that burn, and then, you know, feeling the sheen spray over you. It was just a whole experience of like, damn, like, you know, this feels like a clean cut. And not even to mention, before I even grab the mirror, it's like, you know, it feels like a clean cut, right? You don't even know what it looks like, but when you can feel it, it's like, okay, this is right. So getting my haircut there from junior high all the way to high school. Obviously at this point, you know, kind of getting money from my parents, you know, just a little bit, and basically saving money to pay for my own haircuts now. Obviously it was expensive, and obviously I didn't have a car at the time to go drive to the barbershop. Asked my good friend Michael, you know, if he could cut me. So back in the day, Michael would cut hair in his garage, and it was only, you know, $5-10 at the time. And, you know, just the overall vibe, you know, you're just getting your haircut, you know, talking game with, you know, your good friend, and, you know, it was just a whole lifestyle at that point, right? And then, you know, fast forward, I mean, I don't know if he wants me to tell this story every time.
You could take your time telling this story, bro.
But, you know, the way that I fully got into barbering was that, you know, coming from a buzz cut, he left like a full patch of hair.
Michael did?
Yeah, he left a full patch of hair as a joke on top of my head. Imagine my hair right now, and you leave like a full patch of hair.
Like on top?
On top, you know, as a joke. And obviously you have like stubs of hair just sticking out, you know. And I was like, are you not gonna cut it? And then he just didn't cut it. And so obviously from that point, I went to Walmart, grabbed myself some clippers. It was some like Conair clippers that would heat up pretty quick. Grabbed those, grabbed some trimmers, and, you know, started putting clippers to my head and try to, trim off the long hairs. And at that point, a week goes by. I was like, let me try and cut my own hair. Maybe I could do it. Because I always like my hair sometimes a certain way, so why not try and cut my own hair? Ended up trying to pull up a YouTube video of how to cut your own hair. There was only so many, right?
Who was on YouTube at the time that you watched?
So, what's his name? Vic the Barber?
Vic Damone?
Vic Damone was one. Obviously,
Vic the Barber.
What's his name?
Dave Diggs.
Dave Diggs. And then obviously Kagan, Kagan and Randy.
Shout out to Randy. Randy, if you're watching this.
Yeah. So Randy had that one video, the one that went viral, which was the taper video. And I remember watching that video, 10 times until I can literally, just kind of, imprint it in my mind, how to do a taper. End up doing it on myself and automatically mess myself up, and one side was always higher than the other, and then when it got to the back side doing a taper, I was like, damn, I'm going higher and higher and higher for some reason, so it already looked like I was bald. So I ended up shaving myself bald, just going directly with the trimmers, not even just the clippers at a full guard, literally just ended up going bald. And then, and from that point on, I was like, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to keep repeating it until it gets better. And then, come to find out, 10, maybe 20 more times, I got used to, cutting my own hair, building that eye for it. And, from that point on, just started cutting my own hair from that point. And then there also came a time where I was like, let me try it on somebody else. Let me try it. Let me use my brother Yuri as a guinea pig. Obviously there was points where I was giving him ice picks and I pushed it back, but it still came out solid. And then it came from Yuri, and then obviously moving forward, a lot of my other friends started to recognize that I was starting to cut hair. Just by posting on, not even on Instagram at the time, I was posting on Facebook. This was when Facebook was almost a little bit in its prime. But yeah, I was on Facebook and literally just posting pictures and just really playing around, I'm just posting all these pictures out. And then after that point on, a lot of people started to catch on, oh, you cut hair, let me go to you. And I didn't start in a garage. I was literally starting in our apartment bathroom, which only had one toilet and one shower, and on the other hand, one vanity. And obviously, I'm trying to tiptoe around my siblings, so it's some people needed to use the bathroom, but I'd still be in there cutting hair. So I'd have to schedule it around, and then my mom got annoyed, and then that's when we moved it to the patio, and then so it was a light struggle back then where I didn't start from the garage. I started in small spaces, which is crazy, So being able to work in those type of places, it makes me appreciate even more how much space I don't need, just to cut hair. All I need is just clippers, maybe some little light, and I'll still be able to do some work.
I love that part of your story, because, can you talk about trying? Just the idea of trying? Because I feel when people try to, have everything be so ideal, I gotta have the perfect lighting, I gotta have the best clippers, I gotta have this and that, can you talk about just doing the thing? Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
I feel when you try something, you're exposing yourself to something new, right? You may not be good at it now. You may be bad at it, at that time. But I feel until you try something, you won't know what's gonna happen until you do it, right? That's why I honestly always go by do it versus try, because doing is more you're literally about to dive into it, and even if it doesn't work out, you can always pull out, tell yourself that you did do it, before, and then if it ever comes back to you again that you want to try it, Now you can say that you've experienced it.
What keeps people from doing it? Doing whatever that thing is?
Fear and embarrassment. I feel like a lot of people don't want to feel embarrassed if they're doing something wrong. And also too, I feel like they feel like they're not good enough. And again, you won't know if you're good at something until you try it more than one time, right? And I feel like that's where the discipline kind of comes from, is that although you get knocked down so many times, you always come back up even twice as stronger, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Because the people that may be watching, like perhaps they're like a new barber or they're an entrepreneur just getting into whatever business endeavor that they're venturing into, it's easy to be motivated when things are going well. Like when something's new, I just started cutting hair, like I just opened up my LLC, I just opened my salon suite, whatever it may be. It's exciting in the beginning, but the trenches, like the in-between point A and point B, is very long and it's tumultuous and sometimes it's scary, it's tiring.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine doing the same thing over and over?
For sure.
And then not seeing like the fruit of your labor? Like, that's exhausting. Yeah. And so, like, when it comes to where you are currently in life, because I think we're all slowly like becoming better as human beings. Like, we're educating ourselves, we're exposing ourselves to different like forms of like knowledge or like whatever it may be, just so that we can get better. Like JR in episode 1 of the podcast, he talked about how like the pandemic kind of showed him like how to just pause and like be able to reflect and just slow things down. Like, what were some of the things or like some of the tools or techniques that helped you, I guess, kind of keep like a sane mind and like when you're in between point A and point B? Because sometimes like it feels like a long time.
Yeah. I mean, something that's helped me, like every time I kind of get lost in the process and try to find my way back, is, just to kind of step back and really do nothing, and really just, really reset yourself and think about, when you were in that position, what helped you to get to, to the position that you were when you felt great, right? And for me, I always revert back to reading. I read, a lot of good self-help books. And, I always look for words of wisdom. Even though I may not be able to get it from my peers sometimes it may be in music as well. Maybe it might be in a podcast. But in reality, most of it is really in books that, not a lot of people pick up nowadays. And for me, I always revert back to that. Another thing that I really have been more conscious of is really breathing. I feel like not just meditating, but really, really breathing, because some of us like to, I feel like are so like focus on a lot of tabs that go through our head, right? And it's so hard to like just focus on one. But when you're able to just kind of sit still, just breathe a little bit, one obviously starts sticking out, right? And then obviously for me, I try to focus on what's really sticking out in my life that I should really focus on. I mean, for me right now, it's a lot of balance, because like I'm going in the shop. It feels like a 9 to 5 now, where this is where I make ends meet, right? And then obviously now I have a wife that I have to cater to now, right? I have family that I have to cater to that I don't really see on the regular. Like, I only see my parents like literally once a week, right? And I always appreciate people who live with their families still, able to see their parents or even their siblings. Like for me, I only see like even Yuri like maybe like once a week. So this is like literally my life for the next decade or so, right? So if you really count that up, we don't really have that much time. Wow. So, I mean, the thing is, like, we always get caught up in this rat race. Even now that the pandemic is over, like, the pandemic really slowed a lot of things down, right? So it slowed a lot of things down and helped us appreciate, what was supposed to be appreciated this whole time. Yeah. And it was time. You know, like time is really appreciated. You know, so you know now that time's moving forward at a quick, accelerated pace, and it feels like you know days are just going by so fast. Now it's like you know I wish that I had more time, you know, to do this during the pandemic, for instance, right?
Pausing, like taking time to pause and to just breathe, bro. Like if people watching this podcast, just if they were to get anything from this pod, is just that. Like learn to slow down because time is slowly slipping away from us. The older you get, like I just celebrated my 30th birthday. And like I can't believe like I blinked and 30 is here.
Yeah.
And now like how the next decade looks like for me, like it's you know it's totally up to like how I want to like set myself up for that. But a big thing in my 20s was it was very much just like partying and like oh like can't wait to turn 21 so I can drink. I can't wait till I turn 22 so I could party. I can't wait till I turn you know it's like this rapid progression. And 30 I kind of reflect back on it now. It's like I want to take time to really be present in every minute now.
Yeah.
Because it's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's
especially
fleeting.
with staff.
Yeah, with my
especially
wife, my daughter.
Yeah, your daughter. Like it's a lot, bro.
Yeah.
A lot of attention.
How do you? What's like a tip that you can give to like how you pause and reflect? Like how do you do that practically?
Damn, honestly, at the gym, dude. I feel that that's my sanctuary as of late, is because you're able to, you know, just kind of just focus, but also be away from like everything, you know. Obviously, you can go elsewhere besides the gym and, you know, kind of catch that calmness. But for me, it's just been in the gym because obviously it is work at the end of the day, but I feel like it's also supporting my body, which is the vehicle. You know, like if your body isn't, you know, correct within you know our lane of industry where you're using a lot of stress on your body as well during work, and you know how to work too. Like it's always back to you know your mind and your body.
How do you balance having a wife and your work in the barbershop and also being a statement educator? How do you find balance in that?
Having a good work schedule. I feel like we're so caught in working a regular 8-hour day. But for me now, I've just been really keeping it at like 5 or 6 hours. And I feel like that's enough for me. You know, I don't need to go over that. And it just makes sense. Obviously with my wife, it's a little bit harder because she's a nurse. So our days together will be offset a little bit. Like she'll have every other weekend off, and only then will we only have like 2 or 3 days together. You know, we don't see each other, you know, until like the end of the night every day, more so. So I even try to take a whole advantage of that as well. Every time I do get time with her.
Where do you find your inspiration?
Oh man, I feel like through everything, bro. Like I just observe the room a little bit, anywhere that I'm at, and you know I try to deliver inspiration through everything that I'm sitting in, whether that be in the shop, whether that be in the gym, whether that be in the Muay Thai gym that I'm at now. You know, like I really observe a lot of different things and people. Just my inspiration from everything is literally even just my family overall. I think that's more so my driver is that not only am I trying to grind for myself now, it's for my future family, you know, or, you know, just my family overall that, you know, I'm still, you know, doing this for, you know.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, because inspiration nowadays is like on our phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes it can be inspiring, and sometimes it can almost be like a little discouraging.
Yeah.
Like, cause our feed, like we're almost succumb to like whatever we follow. If you follow like a lot of like millionaires, and it's like, oh man, like I wish I had $1,000,000. You know, where do you delineate inspiration versus, or inspiration and motivation to like discouragement? Like where's that line? Like say I'm on my feed and I see like, oh, like so and so is like doing this stuff. It's like I can get inspired or I can get discouraged. How can I figure out how can I be someone who's more motivated by that than discouraged by that?
I mean, even just motivation in general, bro. Like sometimes motivation isn't even there, in some days, and it's hard for you to really get inspired.
I guess because I'm a lot of these questions like I'm asking personally because when I'm on my feed, I grew up in a like Filipino household, and a lot of like how my family culture was just like, oh, how come you're not doing what so and so is doing? Or like, how come this person has straight A's and you don't have straight A's? And so it's almost like comparison for me in my household was like a very touchy thing.
Yeah.
And social media kind of took that to the nth degree.
Yeah.
It's like now I don't have to just compare myself to like someone who's down the street. Everyone in the whole world is in my pocket that I can compare myself to.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in a little bit of a healthier space than I was before, but definitely like it's a dark time being able to navigate social media, especially when you see how much people are accomplishing. My heart kind of goes out to like a lot of like our younger clients, a lot of the people who are like maybe 10 years younger than us, who are, you know, they're graduating college, can't get a job, but then they see their peers, they're doing so much better than they are. Those are the people that my heart really goes out to. So it's like finding ways to be inspired by people, I think, comes down to how you're able to value yourself. Because if I'm not comparing myself to Zach, then it's almost like I'm good enough. You know, I'm exactly good enough for the job that I'm at. You know, I don't have to compare myself to Zach or compare myself to so-and-so down the street. But I'm just totally content with who I am. Did you ever struggle with comparison?
Yeah, I mean, shit. When I started at Paradox, obviously it was, you know, the head of everything, you know, like head of all shops, I feel like, in all San Jose. And, you know, it was producing a lot of, you know, valued work. And, you know, to be surrounded by, you know, JR, Jordan, Don, Martin, Jay, Riv, you know, obviously coming into that shop was intimidating, you know, but to put yourself and surround yourself with all of them, you know, it encouraged you to get better, you know, and, you know, that whole friendly competition thing, you know, it really does kind of matter in a shop, you know, because it accelerates somewhat your motivation to do better, right? Because why would you come into the shop and not be challenged, right? There's always something that you can really level up every day. You know, whether that be learning how to treat your clients, whether that be, you know, learning how to make sure that your clippers, before they touch a client's head, make sure that it feels good to a client's head, right? You know, really looking at, you know, even style-wise, like, you know, how are all these barbers dressing like? You know, it does cater to the surface as well because, you know, not a lot of clients will want to go to a barber that just dresses up in sweats, let alone, I mean, I sometimes do it.
Good thing I didn't wear sweats today.
Although, you know, I do it, but only for the clients that I know that, you know, have been with me for a while. But, you know, if it's a new client, they want to know that, you know, you take care of yourself. But that's every little detail that I picked up from, you know, all the regular 6 barbers that were in Paradox from the start, you know. But I feel like client experience was the big one for me versus skill. Like anybody can develop skill. It just takes repetition. But to be a good person is also hard because there are days where you're going through stuff, right? It's like you can't just bring that in with you to the shop. You literally have to separate that, leave that in the car, leave that back at home, you know, and be present with your client, right? Because again, if your client is paying you top tier dollar for you to be in your head about, you know, what had happened at your house or what happened before coming into the shop, you know, is it fair for your client to now pay you because you're not servicing them properly because of something that happened prior to your entrance into the barbershop, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that I feel like, so obviously it doesn't get told because you can't even tell sometimes, right? But everybody goes through something, right? Even my clients may be going through something, but we bombard them with hella questions, right? So it's like it's a exchange almost where you have to level and kind of feel the situation out too.
Yeah, I like what you said about how like there's the difference between like your skill and your almost your customer service, your client experience. It's both, right?
Yeah,
you got to have both. Like you can be like, shout out to Jordan. Jordan is probably one of my, I guess, like my inspirations when it comes to like how customer service is. Like he's so personable.
Yeah.
So personable. And I learned a lot of like how much am I able to share with my clients so that they can also share back.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I learned a lot from you too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, like when I first got my cut from you, I mean, I analyze a lot of barbers' cuts too because I want to know how my clients feel when I'm cutting them. And the first thing that I feel like I just like noticed about you was just your soft touch, like of your clipper, bro. Like everything just felt very gentle, but also too watching you from a side, on the opposite side of the room in Japantown, and looking at how you conversate with your clients. And I feel like for you, you're just very personable to where you can have a very comfortable conversation with your client, right? And that's for an hour through, bro. I could barely even speak for like 20 minutes, and I'm just dug into the cut. But something that I've stepped back and trying to understand is that, a lot of, by the time a client gets comfortable in your seat, I feel like at that point they already know that the cut is automatically going to be clean, right? But I feel like when they step into the shop, it's not that they're just coming to the shop just to get a haircut. They want to feel good, but also have a good conversation, right? And also to just let out a little bit, something that they can't do, on a day-to-day basis, and it's only because they're working from home. A lot of my clients, at least that work from home, sometimes they can't open up anymore because they don't know how to socialize, right?
That's really deep.
And that's something that, like, I feel like, sometimes we have to kind of be a little bit more sensitive to, because again, they're not socializing on a daily basis. They're probably only just in meetings, and to be able to kind of balance that out. Sometimes a client doesn't want to talk, right? And sometimes they just want to listen and absorb the energy in the room. Is what I've noticed, at least when I cut my at-home clients or people that work from home. But then you have those clients that they want to have that general conversation with you. Like they want to open up, even if it's the most public area. They still want to tell you the most darkest things.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
With a full shop.
With a full shop, which is crazy. And obviously we hear a lot. And as a barber, it may seem a lot too because you're absorbing all of that energy and talking to them and talking to your clients day to day for 6 to 8 hours. Like I don't know if you ever felt like you just been like rambling on for like 6, 8 hours and you're just like, dang, like I feel dead.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know what to talk. Like you don't even know what to say. Like you feel like you're just like at that point you don't even know what to say. Yeah, you don't even know what to think about, right?
Yeah, like so I live in Livermore now, and so that's like 45 minutes to an hour commute.
Yeah.
And like after talking to people for like 6 to 7 hours straight.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of different things like some people will talk to me about like music or about like a show that they're going to, or then they'll start talking to me about like a divorce.
Yeah.
Or then they'll start talking to me about like, oh, my friend got murdered. And then another one is like, oh, and now like my girl broke up with me, and then how do you go home to your wife after that? Exactly. And so like for me, the drive home from Livermore, the 45 minutes to an hour is my peace. Yeah. And I protect that at all costs. Like sometimes I sit in the car for 45 minutes straight in just silence.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you need that. Like how do you decompress from a whole day's worth of talking?
So what I've been doing recently is no music.
It's nice, right?
Like literally, even just going to work. Like I don't do music going to work anymore. I used to blast my music, you know, even after the gym. But you know, for me personally, like going to work with no music and going to back home with no music is, you know, you're able to recollect your thoughts. You know, and for me, I'm a little bit more critical with myself and, you know, how I think. And, you know, for me, it's just like, just thinking about the day. Like, what can I take out of today that can make me better tomorrow? You know, and again, like when you have music playing in the background, it's hard for you to think sometimes, right? You may be like being like forgetful of something that you should have been doing after work. You know, but yeah, for me, I've just been doing zero music to and from work.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of people, including myself, like we can use music or TV or whatever it may be as like just like an honest way to distract ourselves from all the noise that's been going on in our lives. I guess it does get unhealthy if like you're using it to escape. Like the second episode that we filmed in here was with my friend Trung, and we tried to unpack the whole idea of like escapism and like what people do to escape like their feelings, thoughts, emotions, all that stuff. A lot of people turn to like drugs and alcohol. They turn to like pornography addiction. They go to like they find solace in like maybe video games. So it's a lot of things that we used to kind of like.
It's like cheap dopamine.
Cheap dopamine. Yeah. It's like we want to numb our feelings or our pain or whatever it may be. And in our case, like being barbers, like we carry a lot of that baggage for a lot of people. Like we see like probably like 40 to 50 people a week, and that's 40 to 50 stories. Let's just do a percentage. Like say half of them are these heavy stories. Like that's a lot to carry, you know. So having time for yourself to just unload the baggage is so important as a barber.
I mean, what's also harder too, or more challenging more so, is, you know, being able to balance yourself trying to perfect that cut in the middle too, right? Like,
and we're also cutting hair. We're still cutting hair.
You know, you're still cutting hair. You're still making sure that all details are correct, right? Sometimes you can get lost, bro. Like you'll be literally hitting one section that's probably already clean, but the conversation is so good that, you know, you don't really mind it. But at the end of the day, like if it's like a scissor cut, for instance, right? You're definitely bound to go over another 30 minutes because of the great conversation that you're having in the chair.
Can you talk about what it takes to build meaningful relationships?
It's being real, honestly. I feel like if you're able to be relatable to a client, they'll feel it right away. And you can be relatable to a client that, you know, I'll have my sports clients, or I'll have clients that like to read and be deep with me, or I have clients that like to talk about random stuff. You know, there's always those clients that fit with each barber, I feel like. And, you know, being able to, I think the biggest thing is being able to listen to your client, you know, and really, if you can relate to them, you're able to spark that conversation, you know, almost quickly, right? But, you know, there are different conversations in there that, you know, I feel like make you relatable to your client regardless. Obviously, we always go with the normal, you know, how you doing, you know, how's life been, all that stuff. But for me, I always try to keep some of that private still. Only because I don't like, you know, my business, you know, out there, especially in a public shop. You know what I mean? Where
you know who you need to share it with. Yeah.
Exactly. But, you know, just being able to maintain those clients that know me personally, you know, like we're able to just chop it up for like a good, you know, 10 minutes worth of the conversation, right? It doesn't need to be the whole piece, but, you know, I'll always give it to them very brief. But I always try not to talk about myself more so. I always try to have the client, if a client is always asking about me, I'll always revert the question back to them. Like, you know, it's not about me, it's about you today, you know? Like,
how's it feel talking about yourself today? It's hard, huh?
It's hard, bro, you know? Like sometimes it's like, you know, I feel like at this age that I'm at right now, I like to conserve a little bit more. You know, I feel like in our 20s, we're literally, you know, always gloating about what we have and, you know, what we're experiencing and all that stuff. But now I'm at a pace where it's like, you know, if there's, you know, times where, you know, it is valid to share that, then I will share it because it's a big moment, right? But for me, like, coming into the shop, like, you know, it's not about me. It's always about my client. You know, they're paying me. I'm not paying myself. So. You
know what I love about you, Zach, is that even when it comes to education, it's never been about you. It's always been about how I can help others. I felt that with my first interaction with you when you were just like, hey, Josh, like, my name's Zach. Want me to show you how to do this crop? And I feel like as you're scaling up, and we can talk about statement and like the whole education stuff in a little bit, but I think at your core, the fact that you're just very giving, that's what I love about you the most. Because it's easy once you have a platform to be like, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Hey, look at what I built. Here's my ego. You know, how do you keep yourself from being that person, like the egotistical, like, hey, this is about me? Because I don't get that vibe from you at all.
Yeah. Honestly, I just love seeing people grow, you know, in and out of the chair, or even just as a barber, you know, like, obviously it's like there were times where I've had people that I've looked up to, you know, give me the same thing, right? Like, where I would always question, like, why are they so giving? You know, why are they so giving, and how can they be giving? And for me, like, I'm always trying to be in this selfless type of act where, you know, I don't know as much as the next man does. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just doing it. Like, I feel like for me personally to own that I know everything, that, like, it doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, what's this one quote? There's this one quote, I'm forgetting now, but yeah, a wise man knows nothing. It's literally the quote that I always live by, and the more that I share, the more that, you know, I'm able to just see people's progression. And if I can see people's progression and see their growth, that means that I'm doing something for myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's what matters the most, is that, you know, when you're able to teach or whatever you do, you know, or even just having a conversation with somebody, if they're able to take your words for it and see themselves, you know, grow through that, you know, I've done my part.
Let's talk about being a platform educator. So for you guys who aren't barbers and you guys are tuning into this podcast, in the barber world, we talked about this off camera about how, like, if you want to be a barber and cut hair, you can be a barber and cut hair. You can also, there's opportunities to open up your own shop, your own business. There's also opportunities to become like a platform educator or like have a brand deal. You're kind of in this state, or in this time where you're a platform educator for Statement. Can you talk about Statement a little bit, and then also kind of talk about like how life is currently being a platform educator?
Yeah, so Statement Grooming Goods is a hair product company based out of Germany, and obviously the three main owners of the brand, or co-creators of the brand, are Julius, Sophie, and Nomad. And yeah, from Statement, they grew out of the pandemic. I remember when they first released, like, it was literally when the pandemic hit. And crazy enough to see that, you know, their growth and how everything was just still, like, you know, kind of slow in the beginning. But now just to see their growth now is just crazy.
What was it like being a platform educator?
So being a platform educator-wise, it's been great. I mean, being able to, you know, travel to different states to see how they cut hair, but also to see how they absorb education. Just being able to, you know, teach different areas that aren't surrounded by a lot of barbers that cut like us, you know, and being able to provide, you know, knowledge in those different areas has been pretty cool.
What's one of the cities, what's like one of the highlight cities that you've been to, or like countries that you never thought you would ever travel to?
Damn. Honestly, my first trip was Virginia.
Virginia?
Dude, and this wasn't like Virginia Beach. This was like in some crazy area in Virginia.
Okay.
Like,
Why do you say why Virginia?
okay, I mean, if you, at least like, I mean, if you see like a brown boy like me, I don't want to make it about race, sorry. But like, if you see me, like,
Yeah.
I'm very exotic, bro. Like,
Bro, you're the most exotic.
yeah, like, it's very abnormal to see somebody walking with
Yeah,
like
I get
tattoos,
you. Yeah.
you know, and like you put me in Virginia, and yeah, it just looked weird. So, but I remember my first statement trip. Yeah, I was in Virginia, and it was around 10 p.m. that I got flown in, and I was staying at this, I think, Best Western, and I remember that I was trying to look for food spots because I haven't eaten dinner yet. I was coming from the airport, and then literally I got a Hot Pocket, right? But then they didn't have a microwave, so I had to eat the Hot Pocket frozen. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. I was like, damn, this is what it is. And it was, dude, the surrounding area had nothing. It was like completely pitch black. It was just a hotel.
It's like no fast food, nothing.
No, nothing was open, dude. And I was like, damn, I guess this is how I'm preparing for my class.
Hold on. How do you eat a frozen Hot Pocket?
Dude, I don't know. Like, literally, it was like, it was
thawed?
It was like thawed out just slightly. Like, in the fridge, just like thawed out. But I had, it was like a meatball. So, Hot Pocket, and yeah, that thing was crazy. I was like, damn, I'm really eating a frozen Hot Pocket right now.
And then you had to teach in the morning?
Yeah, I had to teach in the morning.
Wow. What a life.
Yeah, which is crazy. But that was like my first like trip outside of Cali, first statement class. That I'll never forget.
See, I think because people, they see like what you see on social media, you know, it's like all the cool things that the opportunities that are presented to us, you know, like they're cool. But it's like, again, what we talked about in the beginning, like there's still the same hustle. It's like people see platform educator Zach, but then it's also Zach who is also eating a frozen Hot Pocket.
Yeah.
You know, like the struggle and the hustle, like it's still there. Yeah.
It's not glamorous, dude. Like, I'm still sitting in economy. I'm not flying, you know, like business class. Like, I'm still in economy, just, you know, traveling like a regular person to this class, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's not too glamorous, but it's well worth the grind for sure.
What would you say is your biggest accomplishment up to this point?
What statement?
In life, doesn't have to be professional, it could be personal.
I feel like the biggest accomplishment, at least for myself, is really finding calmness and balance. Being able to prioritize my time better. Because I feel like, again, we can always be caught up in the rat race and, you know, forget that there are relationships that still need to be balanced, right? There are still personal, you know, things in your life that still need to be balanced. Right? It's not just work every day. And for me to find, you know, calmness in trying to strategize a way to balance all of that, I feel like I'm in a good rhythm now to provide that, at least.
I love that. You mentioned you read self-help books. What are some of the lessons you learned from one of those books?
I mean, the biggest, if I can summarize all of them up, is, you know, to focus on one thing and to make the little things a habit, you know, and to build off just one habit, a good habit or bad habit, right? Something to kind of just have a building block on. I feel like we're just, again, we're focused on so many different things in life where we don't get enough time to just, you know, sit and breathe and just focus on just one, and knowing that the other things will be okay surrounding it, you know? Like, we're always so rushed about, you know, oh, I gotta do this, oh, I gotta do that, versus, you know, no, let me take this day to do this, you know? Like, you don't have to do everything in one full day. You know, that's the reason why it's such a luxury for barbers to have the freedom to create their own schedule, because you could do all of these things, right? And again, as a regular 9-to-5 worker, they don't have that. They don't have that luxury. Not unless you're working from home, but they don't have that luxury to create time for themselves to do this or that, right? But also too, one thing I feel like that I've accomplished is learning how to say no.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Learning to say no.
Yeah.
And just not and to not feel bad for saying no. You know, like, why am I gonna say yes in the back of my mind when I mean, your body's really telling you no, right? Your intuition and your gut is telling you no, right? Yeah, that's my biggest accomplishment, is just saying no and not having to feel bad for saying it. Yeah.
It's almost like when you say no, you have already these set principles and values in place, because it's hard to say no when all your values are like all misplaced.
Yeah.
For a time when I was working at Legends Barbershop from like 2014 to 2017 or 2016 when I started working with you guys, I said yes to everybody, all my clients.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you get me tonight? It's like, yeah, I can get you at 11. I said tonight at 11. 11 p.m., not a.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I said yes to everyone. Like, the latest I ever cut, and like me and JR and Jordan, we all did this. We cut to like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we that was our biggest, I think, biggest sell, was that, hey, we'll say yes no matter what, which is great for that time. But I can see, if I were to look back, I don't have any regrets. But if I were to do it differently, I would do what you're doing now, is to have a little bit more balance and knowing when to say no. Because my body, bro, I'm paying for it now.
Oh, for sure.
I'm paying for it, paying for it like in my back and my legs.
Yeah.
But saying no, it's hard. It's a 2-letter word, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, and to go back to, you know, the previous podcast with JR, you know, like, you have to be a yes man in the beginning, right? When you are starting off as a barber. And it's because you're trying to gain that loyalty and respect for clients who don't know you yet, right? But when your clients are able to see how much you grind and how much you're in the shop, they start to value you even more, right? And that's something that you can't teach to other barbers, right? They just have to either see it for themselves, be aware to it, or, you know, you let them figure it out on their own, right? But I feel like in this type of industry now that, you know, where some barbers may not be as booked, you know, there are going to be days where you're not as booked. And even I still fall in line with that, right? But it's taking that moment to appreciate, okay, why am I not getting booked, right? Okay, what can I focus on in order to get booked? It doesn't have to be a haircut. It could be content. It could be maybe educating myself, going back to a doll head, right? It could be maybe I need to have a self-care day for myself, right? It could be various amounts of things. I feel like the trouble is that we always, if we're not booked, we always see it as like, damn, like, clients don't like me. Like, no, it's like more so maybe it's God telling you that maybe you should utilize this time to do something that's good for you, you know?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, not learn, like, early on in our careers, just saying yes to everybody. It is like our biggest sell. At the end of the day, like, the thing that allows you to cut hair more and to do the things you want to do is your body.
Yep.
And when we're not listening to what our body's trying to tell us, like, hey, slow down, hey, spend time with your family, hey eat.
Yeah.
Something as simple as just eating.
Yeah.
I remember we used to never take breaks. I used to give my breaks away all the time.
Dude.
To anybody. And just eat lunch real fast.
Yep. Like 15 minutes is all you need, really.
15 seconds.
15 seconds, all you need.
What would you say to an aspiring barber right now? Because social media has changed barbering. Social media has changed a lot of industries. And specific to barbering, what have you seen has changed in the landscape as far as like social media, and what kind of advice would you give to the aspiring barber?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays in social media, like, education's been a big thing, which is cool. I love that, you know, every barber is taking education serious and whatnot, but there comes a time where a lot of these so-called educators are utilizing an education platform just to gain respect and, you know, and admiration for them just posting high quality videos on education, which is cool. But if you're only doing it just to gain that, then, you know, that's not really education. And more so, at least from my experience, like education is really about sharing. You know, anybody can be an educator. You can be an educator of life if you want to put it that way, right? But it doesn't only need to be specifically within hair. Like right now, what took a big toll was consultation. Like the education and consultation, now most clients expect a good consultation from barbers, right? But now what, at least from what I want to see is, you know, at least in the education space, is how do you service clients, right? What's the proper way to service clients in a timely manner too, right? But yeah, like to answer your question and revert back, you know, to what I would tell aspiring barbers, you know, just to take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Like, don't always think that whatever you see on social media, whether that be Instagram, whether that be TikTok, whether that be YouTube, you know, that's the only way to cut hair, or, you know, or the only way to be a barber. You know, I feel like it's just so cluttered and all that most of the education now is so overly saturated that there is really no proper way of saying, like, this is it. This is the only thing.
It's almost like when everyone's an educator, who's a student?
Yeah, exactly. And it's to forever be a student, you know? Like, even though you may know a whole lot of things in hair or whatnot, sometimes you may go to a class and that may spark the motivation and inspiration again, right? Because you only know as much as the next person, right? But when you go into like a new class, for instance, right, you suddenly feel motivated because you just picked one thing out of that whole class, not the whole class, but one thing in there that sparked your mind.
You know what it feels like whenever I've gone to a class? It kind of feels like you're a kid again.
Yeah.
There's something about curiosity that creates a spark in us as adults that I talk about this to a lot of my clients, is like, as the older we get, the more routine a lot of the things become, and we lose our spark because there's nothing interesting happening.
Yeah.
We're not learning anything new.
Yep.
And I feel like one of the secrets to longevity, and not just barbering, but in life in general, is to stay curious.
Yeah.
To always ask questions.
Yeah.
Never be the one who has it all figured out. And there's this quote that says that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And whenever I've come to Paradox to just visit, I feel very intimidated. Not because I'm intimidated by the guys, because everyone's just so good.
Yeah.
And when I come back to the shop, I'm like, yep, I can't wait to put hair on the floor, just because I learned all this stuff from Kevin, from Marin, from Brian.
Yeah. You just feel reborn.
Feel reborn.
Yeah, and I like that you said stay curious, because again, like, curiosity, I feel like, is the base of anything, right? And the more curious that you get, the more that you want to try it, or try something new, or do something new, right?
What are some big mistakes that you've seen yourself make, and maybe you've seen other people make in your line of work, that you feel like a young barber should try their best to avoid?
Big mistake is just, you know, obviously not utilizing enough time to practice. I feel like when new barbers, like, yeah, there can be only so much time that, like, you know, you can be sitting there cutting a mannequin. But again, it's like, another big mistake is, you know, blocking off your schedule when it's not booked, right? Like, I'll see some barbers just block off their schedule and then not show up. But again, what are you utilizing that time for, right? At least, as long as you're utilizing that time for something, then yeah, cool. But there are barbers that just sit there on their phone and just do nothing.
I think like what you stand for, Zach, and like in regards to like education and stuff, like we need more of that. Like just less ego, like less ego-driven barbering. Because ego, it's like, it gets you ahead, but man, it's so unattractive at the same time.
I mean, the best way that I can put it is that with ego, there's also confidence, right? Confidence is, something that you stand for, that you're firm with, right? Whereas ego, it's like this little like fire in your mind that just wants you to just not respond but react to, right?
Yeah.
I feel like ego is just more reaction and confidence is more of a response, right? But I feel like when you mix the two, right, you do need ego to boost that confidence up, right? So it works hand in hand if you know how to balance it out correctly. Like you could go into the room and be like, yeah, I'm the shit. But then also again, it's just like, you set yourself back down a little bit. And you're just like, okay, maybe I am good, but I'm gonna let my work speak for itself type thing.
Yeah, there's this post I saw recently. It was another barber page, but said it was kind of calling people out. I don't think that was the intent, but it was just like, there's a lot. You got to figure out the difference between a barber who's good at social media versus a barber who's actually good behind the chair.
Yep.
And I know a lot of barbers, especially at Paradox, because you guys are my homies, like who are amazing behind the chair, but we just don't have the social media presence to back it up.
Yeah.
And vice versa, like a lot of people who maybe they're not the best at cutting hair, but they just know how to talk or they know how to, work a camera.
No, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, like what we were talking about, like off camera, like I'm pretty optimistic when it comes to like things like this, like industry shakers. Like AI is a huge industry shaker right now. Like it's shaking everything across the board. Social media is like shaking the barber industry, and at the end, it's the people who really wanted to be in it. Like I'm not saying people who quit like didn't have what it took. But it's almost like just wait, just be patient.
Yeah.
Like let all the social media noise come and like try to adapt, try your best to adapt, but then like see what comes next, I know a lot of barbers who have quit recently and some that you may know, and it breaks my heart because this is an industry that we got into in its very pure form. There was no social media. There was no like, hey, look at my haircut, look how good it is. But it was just like, no, I just love cutting hair.
Yeah.
But now social media is like training us to think differently about the art form.
It's definitely a lot more tutorial than, sharing, what your haircut looked like. Because back then we would just like literally even post our cuts, just of our client based in the chair. And now you have them pulled out of the chair, styled, and photo shoot at that point to make it more formal of a post. Whereas Instagram back then was you just cut and you just post it, right? So it's very, very different now with social media. And I feel like with the OGs still currently cutting now, obviously it's either you adapt with the times or you stick with just staying cutting, or it's a hard industry. It's a challenging industry to adapt to because there's so many younger barbers out now that have all that energy that are able to create like massive amounts of content, And again, I've tried it. I've done my due diligence to stay present on social media, but for me, it's also sometimes daunting to create a post. That's why I don't even post on stories now, It's just a lot more easier.
Yeah, and we have to do what we can to protect our peace at the end of the day. Like I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole of like trying to chase every trend. Like what's the trending audio? Like what's like the latest barber trend? Like let me try to do that so I can be relevant and like get the most likes. But likes don't pay the bills. Not immediately, maybe somewhere down the line, but like at the end of the day, like what pays your bills is what? Your client in the chair. Exactly. And like how would all your clients feel if like they just had a tripod in front of them the entire time? Like I think there's coming a time where clients are just gonna be like, Zach, please cut my hair.
Yeah.
Zach, I don't want to do this consultation video.
Bro, exactly. Well, I know some barbers that literally just go straight into it. Like, not even ask. Like, even for me, I have to ask for permission first.
Yeah,
like, hey,
consent.
is it cool? Like, is it cool if I do a little process video on you real quick? If they say yes, cool. But I try not to do it throughout the whole haircut. Like I'll only do like just in different areas of where I can, put a tripod in. Mm-hmm. Like obviously you won't be able to do that if a client is literally talking to you, right? Mm-hmm. But I always ask for permission first, and make sure that's cool with my client, because sometimes clients don't even like getting, recorded. Mm-hmm. But I know, a few barbers that probably do, go right into it, hook the mic up, and you're like, what the is this? Like, like what are you doing? Like, what are you hooking up on me? Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's cool and all, but obviously there is that certain respect and regard for your client, because they're not in there for that, right? Mm-hmm. They're not in there for that type of experience, at least. Not unless you warn them ahead of time before their appointment that, hey, I'm going to mic you up, we're going to record your hair, and then we're going to shoot your haircut.
Another thing that goes on in my head, at least, and you could probably let me know if you relate to it, it's like right when the camera comes on, or right when you turn on the camera and you're starting to cut your client, it's kind of hard to focus on what your client's talking about, because you're focused on like, oh, am I in frame? Yep. Or is my shot in focus? Yeah. Like earlier you were talking about how like it's hard to just keep switching between all these tasks. Like cutting hair is already hard. It's already hard. And talking to your client is already hard. Yep. Doing video is very hard. Yeah,
I mean, even just me doing like trying to zoom in on my iPhone, like like,
hey bro, give me 1 second, okay? Just
like, let me pinch and zoom real quick while you're having a conversation with me, But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a balance between both, and obviously this is why you set aside days, right, for content days. Mm-hmm. Because again, you don't want it to take away from what your client is actually paying you for. Yeah.
I have this saying that, because I'm a big values guy, mm-hmm. and the better you define your values, the more you can say yes or no to whatever it is, right? So one of my values is that I'll always treasure my interpersonal relationships over my parasocial relationships. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? Your interpersonal relationships are the people, like me and you. Like this is an interpersonal relationship. It's someone that I see face to face. It's me and Steph, me and my daughter, me and my friend. Your parasocial relationships are the people who only know the social media version of you. Yeah. They don't know Zach. They don't know the real Josh. They only know what I've posted on social media. Mm-hmm. And so, am I gonna sacrifice my behind the chair experience in order to appease the people that don't even know me? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I would rather flip it and put so much value on the person in my chair right now, and then use that as an overflow into like, okay, like let me shoot a video. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like, I'd rather have love in real life from the people who know me than likes from people who never even met me.
Yeah. Because that's a forever client.
That's a forever client, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you already know like all of this. Like we have clients that rock with us, since
the bathroom
we started. Yeah, since the bathroom,
Since the bathroom.
And literally, they've been with us for a long, long time. That's why they don't really expect so much from the cut. They just expect that you give them a good service and possibly a good conversation too, But there's so much that you can learn from just even your client. Mm-hmm. Like from them just talking and then you just absorbing it, right? Mm-hmm. There's things that you may not know about the outside world that your client knows about, right? But again, it's an even exchange where you're giving your client that good service, while also too that client of yours could potentially give you good knowledge from the outside world that you're not mostly in because you're in the shop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our clients, they're our biggest asset. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's all about people.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I always go by your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. That's how it's always been, at least coming into the shop.
Yeah, in this day and age of like the internet and like even with AI, you can kind of think about how it makes things very disingenuous, mm-hmm. and it has the potential to make things very inauthentic. Like, oh yeah, if you want a script, just put it on ChatGPT and then it'll spit out a script. It's not even you talking anymore, it's ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. In a world where things are becoming less and less authentic, who we are and our authenticity, that's how we're going to shine. I think that's what will separate us from the person two chairs down from the business down the street.
For sure.
How authentic are you?
Mm-hmm. And clients can feel that right away too. To be honest.
They can smell it from a mile away.
Yep.
There's this. I have a buddy who's in solar sales, and he does like commission sales, and so he has this phrase called, or this like thing called commission breath. Have you ever heard of that term before? Commission breath is when a salesman is so desperate to sell you something that you can smell it from a mile away. It's like they laugh at all your jokes. Ha 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 ha. Oh wow, like oh you went to the Bahamas? Me too. Oh my gosh. And like in the back of your mind, it's like, dude, this guy is so thirsty for a sale.
Yep.
I'll be honest, I've been like that before too. When things are slow, it's like I need to do everything I can to keep this client.
Yeah, for sure.
But then how you're able to shine is authenticity. Like just being real.
I don't want to move. This whole time I'm not trying to move.
Okay. You can still talk, Zach. Here, you can bring your head back a little bit. I don't want to.
I'm really trying.
Don't even breathe.
I know, but you are right though about that whole commission breath, because I mean, basically, in all, it's just how to spot somebody that's fake love, right?
Fake love.
Yeah, they're just trying to do their job, just trying to sell you something, but at the end of the day, what they don't retain is the relationship. They'll still make the sale, but they won't retain the relationship that's forever long, right?
Yeah, when you genuinely want to help somebody, bro, like the how just figures itself out.
For sure.
Like clients during like all these consultation videos of like how to talk to your client, how to figure out like what haircut they want. Like at the end of the day, it's just about how well can you help them. And being able to help somebody comes from a place of empathy.
Yeah, it's just problem solving at the end of the day, right? For haircuts, that's why you gotta listen to your client in the beginning, figure out what the why and why they're in the shop for a specific reason. And then get to the solution.
Yeah, a lot of what, if we were to boil down basic consultation, figure out the problem, offer the solution.
Yep, exactly.
And how well you do that is just based on your knowledge.
Knowledge, experience.
How many haircuts do you know how to do will determine how many solutions you're able to offer. How many types of hair textures have you worked with will bolster how many haircuts that you can offer somebody. Because I've seen it all before. Like that's exactly what you're doing. And I think that's what that's what makes you a high value individual. It's because you're curious. You're just like, oh, I learned how to do all this. I learned how to do all that. And that's what will separate you from everyone else.
Yep.
We just can't stop learning.
I mean, that's something that's gonna be forever. You always gotta be forever a student, because then that's what's gonna spike that curiosity as you're trying to get better.
How about for the OGs in the game? Because I guess we're OGs. We've been talking a lot to like the younger folks.
Yeah.
How about for us, like, we've been in the trenches for a long time, and like we're all we're doing is just cutting hair. Like I felt this kind of thing like during the pandemic. It's like, dude, my job security is not secure.
Yeah.
How would you encourage someone like that who's like, man, I'm in my mid-30s. Like, I don't really know what else to do with this barber thing. I don't have any health insurance.
Yeah.
No investments. It's a real thing, bro.
But to answer your question, I mean, I'm 31, and I feel like we're in this, like, for me, now getting into my 30s, I'm starting to fully understand the appreciation of time.
Yes.
Time and balance. And it's really a necessity sometimes, and sometimes we really take it for granted. And my advice to like all the OGs out there that, are struggling on how to, balance their time out is to, again, say no to, you have to say no to opportunities, that don't make sense. And, coming from for yourself, right, where you don't have health benefits, I understand that, that's why people grind out so much, but also burn out even quicker, because they're trying to grind out for the fact that, that they don't have benefits or whatnot. Or whatever it is, right? Why are you grinding in the first place? I think that's the question that it should start at, is why am I working so hard in the first place? Because the why, again, is gonna be your answer to everything, right? I feel like, yeah, I'm kind of rambling on. Can you cut this one?
No, we're not cutting this, guys.
Oh man,
you're doing great.
No, I mean, as I was saying again, time is everything, right? And it's learning how to benefit your time now as you move closer within the next decade of your 30s, right? Like for you just turned 30, and you're gonna start to feel that, time with your family is more important than even being in the shop, right? But there's always gonna be that part in your head that's like, nah, I want to grind for my family, rather than, oh wait, let me sit and think real quick. How else can I grind outside of these two walls that I'm in right now, right? Like, I know that there's something else that can help provide another income, or, maybe it's something that I got to pull away from, which is cutting hair, right? It's being able to strategize multiple ideas that are in your head to, again, try it, right? Let me try something new that will be able to help me, find balance in this, or find peace in this, or how do I make more time for my wife, my kid, all that stuff. But it really just begins with calming down and really taking that breath to really think of that idea that pops up clearly, and really setting your mind to it and lock it in and then focus on it, right? Because again, by the time we hit the shop floor, that's when it's go time, and we don't have that time to think anymore, right? It's about our client. It's no longer about us. When we step into that shop floor, it's about my client now. I'm not worried about what's happening at home. I'm not worried about what I didn't eat for breakfast earlier this morning or whatever, right? It's fully focused on my client. How can I help this one person who's my client that I can build a relationship forever with, right? What can I say today that can be able to enhance or relieve a client who's going through something, right? That's the power of who we are as barbers, and we don't know that. Some of us don't even know that we have the power of doing that, right?
It's our superpower.
It's our superpower, and it's the form of being able to communicate out, right? And like Nipsey literally said before, the highest human act is to inspire. And if you can do that one single day at a time, that's how you get better as a person. Right? Because if you can help somebody and that fulfills you, you continue to do it, right? And that's not cheap dopamine.
Nope.
That's dopamine that's natural, right? And it comes from a natural place and authenticity too, right? And again, I feel like, if barbers are able to settle back down, it's not always about the cut. Again, yeah, your clients are paying you for the haircut, right? But what they don't know, what they're tipping, is the client experience too. You're giving them a tip as well, which is the client experience, which comes from, again, the consultation. Everything from start to finish, right? And that's what I feel like drives a client to come into a shop, feeling like that, because that's what they value. Like, oh shit, like, am I going to get this at my regular, Vietnamese salon? Probably not, because they're getting you out in 10 minutes, right? They're so fully focused on the cut, right? But for us as barbers, we're fully focused on the whole thing, right? We're your therapist, we're here to listen to you, to, use us as your punching bag. You know what I mean? Like, beat me up, man. What's going on in your mind? Because some men, they don't like to talk about their feelings, and they will not talk about it with their significant other as well. Right? Fact. Because they feel like they don't want to burden anybody. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm starting to notice, is that the more that people hold what's inside, the more that it frustrates them, and they can't operate, authentically, right? But the more that you're able to release it and be able to find somebody as relatable I feel is important, right? Because you're able to trust that person that's relatable, and you're able to release, right? And it's all about release, man. Like, the more you hold it in, the more that, again, you bottleneck everything up, and then you just don't become the person that you don't want to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So good.
Yeah, so that's just, you know, coming from the experience in the last 31 years, you know, like 20s were cool. It was my partying phase, is, you know, a time to be alive, you know, going to music events, all that stuff, partying it up. But now I'm in my calm phase where, you know, I'm starting to appreciate family things more, you know, the time that I get with my wife, whether that be, you know, the time in the gym that I get, all that stuff, all that little stuff, like the barbering thing, it comes easy. You know what I mean? Like that's regular stuff to me. You know, that's my playground. That's where I can, you know, create whatever, be fulfilled. But everything else that I'm now coming into balance with, you know, personally, is my focus now. Yeah. So again, all of us out there that just focus on barbering, is more to that. You know what I mean? Like, there's more to that. You know, like, always appreciate what's surrounding you, whether that be your close friends, bro. Like, I'm trying to even be better at getting back to, you know, keeping a close relationship with my friends. You know, sometimes you're just so caught up in, you know, haircuts that you don't know how to send that text out. You know what I mean? And I suck at texting now, but I'm trying to get better at it. You know what I mean? Not unless it's important to me, then I will reply fast. But for me, it's appreciating everything around me, for sure.
Everything that you just said, Zach, I think it encapsulates exactly who you are. And I think a lot of people who are listening in are really going to appreciate and take it to heart. Like, I'm impacted by all the words that you're saying, because we're in the similar season of life. And holding on to like your loved ones, making time for the right things, slowing down, focusing on one thing at a time. Like, if everyone, not just in the barber industry, but everyone who's in the service industry, saw people as people and not as a means to an end or just money coming in, and we start treating people like they're valuable, bro, we can change. We can change whatever craziness is going on right now in terms of like negativity, depression, suicide rates. Like, that's all real stuff that's going on right now with all the kids. And it starts, for us, it starts from behind the chair. And I think we have so much influence over the people who sit in our chair, who are there for an hour. And we can literally say anything to them and they'll hold on to it. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to choose to say something very valuable to them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's always about building a relationship versus building a transaction. Right? It's all about always about relationships.
So, Zach, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy man. But I'm going to show you this mirror. And I just want to let you know I appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you too.
Here, go ahead and take a look.
Damn, dude, I cut myself.
Is it better than your mom's haircut?
Dude, hell yeah.
Don't tell your mom.
Dude, don't tell Ryan that you cut me, dude.
No, hey, Ryan's going to see this.
Dude, thank you, bro.
All right, you guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been Zach Ignacio in the green room. We'll see you guys next time. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
We'll see you guys next time. Peace.